Okay, so today we're going to learn how to find the standard deviation of a set of data. Standard deviation, it's a measurement using statistics. It's the amount a number varies from the average number, which is the mean in the set of data. So the standard deviation is going to tell us how reliable the data is and how big a difference there is between the pieces of data and how close it is to the data. When you take the standard deviation, if you get a really low number, that means that the data is very closely related to the average and it's very reliable. If you get a high number, that means that there's a large variance, so a big difference between the data and the mean, and it's not very reliable. So let's look at an example problem. Say we had a recent progress check and it was 20 points and these were the scores. So somebody made a 19, somebody made a 13, somebody made an 11, 17, 18, and somebody made perfect. So we want to find the standard deviation. Okay, so the first step in finding the standard deviation is to find the mean. And that means you add all up the numbers and you divide by however many numbers there are in the set. So we're going to add all these up and then we're going to divide by 6 because there are 6 numbers. So if I pull up my calculator, we're going to add 19, 12, 11, 16, 18, and 20. And so the sum of those is 96. And then there were 6 pieces of data, so we want to divide by 6. And so our mean is 16. So that means the average score here was a 16. So the average we found was 16. So we had, what did I say? It was 96 divided. Okay. So when you added all those up, you got 16 and we divided by 6. So the average score was a 16 out of 20. Okay, so the next step is we want to take all of those and we want to find the difference between each piece of data and the mean. So what we're going to do is we're going to take every one of these and then we're going to subtract 16. So you're taking your pieces of data and you're subtracting the mean. So 19 minus 16 is 3. Then you get -4 here. That's -5. That's 0, 2, and 4. So second step, very easy. Just take all of your data pieces that we started with and you subtract the mean. Okay, so now we have a new data set, and we're going to use this data set right here going forward. Okay, so here's our data set that we just got, and we are going to square the differences, okay? So when you square a number, remember it's a number times itself, and it's going to become positive. So we're going to square that, and you're going to get 9. If you square that, you get positive 16. If you square that, you get 25. If you square that, you get 0. If you square that, you get 4. And if you square that, you get 16. Okay, so again, step 3, pretty easy too. Just take all of the differences that we found and you're going to square them. Just make sure that they're all positive numbers because anytime you square something, it's a positive value. So step 4 is to take all of these numbers and we're going to add them all up and then we're going to divide by n minus 1. Now, n minus 1, n is the number of pieces of data. Okay, so n is the number of, or how many data pieces you have. And so in this one, we had 6. Okay, so there were 6 pieces of data. But it wants us to divide by n minus 1. So if we take 6 and take away 1, we're going to be dividing by 5. Okay, so we're going to add all these up. So I'm going to go back to my calculator. So this time I'm adding 9 plus 16 plus 25 plus 0 plus 4 plus 16. And then I'm going to divide that by n minus 1, which was 5, because there were 6 pieces of data, but I'm taking one of those away. So my answer here is 14. So the answer, if we add all those up, let's see, what do we get? We got 70, and if you add all those up and then you divide by 5, we get 14. And here's the very last step. The very last step is you take the square root. So we want to take the square root of 14. So back to my calculator, because that's not a perfect square. So to take the square root, remember you just hit the second button and x squared here, so the square root of 14, or you can do it in your phone or whatever calculator you have. So this one is going to be 3.74. I'm just going to round that. So the standard deviation is approximately 3.74, and this is a very low number. Think about this as like a percent. So 3% is a very small number. So this is a very reliable piece of information according to the data. So the standard deviation for all of these scores, so if I go back here, standard deviation for all of these scores is a 3.74. So that tells us that this data was very, very reliable.